Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Now we got a requirement to onboard another type of application where that data will be reside in the database. As of now, actually, we don't have any application. First, we will create that application in the database. Basically, we will create a database and we will consider it as one of the target application and we will try to aggregate the data from there. I hope Rajesh should have downloaded the source data file. Can you navigate that? Here we are having two DDL scripts. One is Prism DDL script, other one is Track DDL script. Basically, DDL is nothing. It's a data definition language script. It will help you to create. Once you are going to exhibit the script, it will create a database. Let me create quickly. This DDL script you have created specifically for this training, right? Yes, we didn't create. We got it from somewhere. Once you execute the script, basically the database will be created. Now just use the script and execute. And the drop is not required because the database already not exists. From execute the script from the create file. That's it. Now here you could see the database has been created. This database is having two tables. On one table, all the user information will be exist. As of now, we have two users from Prism. Basically, it's a code to a code. And the same Prism application is having three different level of entire manager super user. Don't go by the name. It's actually entire. The entire name is available under group state. For us it's entire name and for them it's correct. Similarly, I'm going to create one more database. The script DDL script name is Track DDL. We will execute this. Before executing, I would recommend remove this identity by root. Because in the Prism database creation itself, we created this identity. You can remove this. Ctrl+C. And we can execute. We can remove this drop database. It will help you to delete the existing database. Now we have executed. And I could see one more database has been created. Let's take this application as an example. We got a requirement to onboard this application. The application name is Track. And application owner name is Alice Ford. And application team want us to aggregate all these 156 accounts as of now. And in this scenario, ID is going to be considered. I mean not ID. Let's say username is a unique value. That's what they said. And obviously, when we are going to aggregate this data, SailPoint will consider this account as a new identity and it will try to create, new account and it will try to create identity. Now, since we know the data has been resides in the database, we have to choose JDBC connector and track application team. They don't require any provisioning from SailPoint here. They are onboarding this application only for certification purpose, access review purpose. Track is the application name. Alice Ford is the owner. They didn't provide any revoker. Let's say what will be the connector we are going to choose. We are going to choose JDBC connector. Java database connector, which means the data is available in the database. We selected this connector. Whatever the description we are going to provide, just we have to copy this. And it's not an HR application and they don't require provisioning. We can skip these two. Whenever you are going to onboard any application in your local machine, are you to recommend don't store the credentials, or else the SP admin credentials will be placed somewhere and you won't be able to onboard an application successfully. Now go to configuration. Here you have to type everything. Username. Always it's going to be root in local in our local machine, but in real time these credentials will be provided by the application. Can you type the MySQL server password? The URL also. It will be provided by the application team. As of now, the server name is localhost and DB name is track. And JDBC driver, you can leave it as it is. Then from where the data needs to be agreed to. From which table we have to inform that. We have defined everything. Then, as usual, we have to ensure all these attributes need to be defined. Click on Discuss Schema attribute. CID username, first name, last name, email. We have username, ID first name, last name, everything is there. We define all these attributes here. And when, as we check with application team, we know username is a unique attribute. We have to declare that attribute as identity attribute. That's it. Now click on Preview button. SailPoint is able to access all the data. A test connection is successful. It's well and good. We can save this application and we can aggregate the data, right? Yes. You are a kiss. What if I say James Smith is a user who already have access on track application account? And in SailPoint, James Smith is already having identity. What will happen in this scenario? What I'm trying to say, James Smith is already having identity in SailPoint and James Smith is having account on track application also. Now, if you're going to aggregate the data aggregating user account from track application, do you think the new identity is going to bring it? No, it will. It should just add the same identity. It should add the some values extra additional field. You mean to say new identity should not create, it should merge into the respective identity. Yes, I agree. Correct. But how do we ensure SailPoint has? How do we communicate to SailPoint? When, say, LPoint is going to aggregate the data, the account. If our account is having an identity already, it should be merged. If identity is not there, then SailPoint can create identity. We have to install SailPoint, right? How do we achieve that? In that case, we'll create a correlation rule between the identity SailPoint and JDBC application. Once it runs the correlation aggregation rule, it will automatically be coded between the identity between the SailPoint and the JDBC application. Correct. For all the target application, we have to ensure correlation needs to be defined. I'll explain what is correlation. But before that, understand, for all the target application except SailPoint, except HR application, except authoritative application, we have to define correlation rule. Because as per IAM, the core objective of IAM is all about one user should have only one identity. Correct. If, let's say, James Smith is having multiple identity from different application, one is from SailPoint, one is from Track, one is from HMS application. It's not the ideal scenario. We have to instruct SailPoint. Whenever you are going to aggregate the data from Track application or Prism or any application, try to match the value between the target application and SailPoint. In this scenario, we will consider James Smith account as a point from Track application. We have to match the value. Right. Now, here we are having one identity. This identity belongs to SailPoint application. Here we are having a code from target application. Can you compare the value? Which attribute we can consider for correlation? I'm not talking about the attribute name. I'm talking about the attribute value. Which attribute value we can match between identity and appointment. And it has to be unique. Employee ID and ID. Employee ID and ID, right? But in the identity, I couldn't find the employee ID attribute or value. But here at least we are having ID value one name, right? In this identity, I'm not able to find one name value. How about email, Rakesh? We can go ahead with email, but you have to ensure the value has to be reached. But in that case, we will have to add a customer attribute and that's the unique employee ID. In this, exactly. We have to add the attribute. That's the additional scenario we have to perform, but we are not going to do it now. Whatever attributes are available, we have to go ahead with that. Here we can consider email as a unique attribute, one of the unique attributes. Here value is also getting matched. Let's say, hypothetically, I'm saying in Track application, we don't have email attribute. Then what will you do? Which value we can consider for correlation purpose? That should be the value from the cell. Point means identity value. No, in identity we have email address that is going down. But in the target application, we don't have email. Which means all the users, they don't have email value in the Track application. How do we correlate them? ID to employee ID. Is that the correlation? Here we are having ID value only 82A something, right? But here we are not having then a value for this identity James. User sorry full name. We create a full name and we don't have full name right over here. Do we have full name attribute or are you referring username attribute? User. In application accord, in the accord, you can see that's James Smith, but in SailPoint we have James Smith. There is no dot, the value won't match. But as per our scenario, right now only email address is matching. Let's say, whenever you are going to onboard an application, that's where you have to pay more attention. If you are able to find the unique value, the value can be matched between SailPoint identity and target application upon expellent code. But if you are not able to find the correlation value, then what will you do? We have to learn multiple attributes such as first name, last name, and email. I would say the first name value, last name value, email value we can consider as a correlation global correlation key. For all the target application, we can apply the same correlation. First name, the combination of first name plus last name plus email. Anyway, as of now, we have one unique attribute, which is called email. We will define that. Just navigate to Correlation tab. From here, we can define. Account correlation needs to be defined. Account correlation will be defined for all the target application, and manager correlation will be defined only for authoritative application. Click on New. I'm going to name it as CR. You can name it as you want. I'm going to compare the value between account and SailPoint identity. From application account, it's going to be email value. From SailPoint identity, it's going to be email value. You have to click on Add. When SailPoint is going to aggregate the data, if email values are matching, then obviously correlation will work, which means account will be merged into the respective identity, or else new identity will be created. That's what correlation. I hope you guys are clear. Similarly, whenever you are going to onboard any application, you have to define the correlation. That's the thumb rule. Can we proceed further? Then we have risk. Nowadays, we are not having this risk module because it's a legacy one. This risk module will help you to identify all the high-risk users. But it's a legacy, one we can skip as of now. This activity data source will be available for all the application. But I never seen it's been enabled in real time. This activity data source will be applicable for all the connector, right? It will help you to monitor all the user activity with the help of logs. Let's say if application team is fine to enable this activity data source, we can capture application team log as well. Not SailPoint log. I'm talking about application team. Application logs. All the activity we can monitor from activity data source. But we won't use in real time and application team won't allow for that. Then we have this rule. You guys are familiar with creation. Today we decided we got one unique attribute and we can go ahead with this correlation. We can define it from here. But let's say if we didn't get the correlation, unique attribute, then we have to write a rule. Like we have to type the first name has to be matched, last name has to be matched, then email value has to be matched. Then only the correlation will go. Something like we have to write a correlation through or else it won't go. And if track application team is having any specific requirement, then you can use a customization rule or creation. Then we have password policy. What is this password policy? Whenever user account is getting created in the target application, obviously SailPoint will set the username and password. That's fine. But once they are able to reset the password, we can define how strong the password could be using this password policy. Which means, let's say user. Whenever they are trying to reset their password, they should have at least minimum 10 character and they should have uppercase, lowercase. They cannot have a repeated character. They cannot use last 3 times used password. Something like that. We can define the password policy. Each and every user who have access on track application phone, they have to follow this. That's it. As of now, we define the correlation also. This connection is successful. Rikesh, one more question. In the correlation tab, we can add multiple conditions in the... Yes, here itself we can have multiple conditions, multiple attributes. In real time, what will happen? We will have one global correlation through using first name, last name, the combination of first name, last name, email. For most of the application, we will use the global correlation. We won't define it from here. Hit the test connection. If the test connection is successful, we can aggregate the data from track application. In track application also, we are having 156 accounts, right? Here you could say 156 accounts we are having. In SailPoint application also, we are having 157 identities, if I'm not wrong, including SPL. Now, if already we define the correlation, how many identities are going to be played? What do you think? I'm going to create a task account aggregation task to aggregate the data from track application. Can somebody suggest how many identities will be created? Identity will be not created. If a correlation is working properly, it will be a JDBC application and SailPoint. Identity will be not created. If a correlation is not met, identity will be created as your orphan. ID, I think. Not as an orphan identity, duplicate identity. Basically, the value has to be matched and we cannot comment anything on over here because 100% we cannot say all the values are going to be matched, right? It's very tricky. We cannot comment anything on this. Just we will execute the task and we'll see how many identities are going to be created. If identity didn't create, then correlation worked as expected. If the identity got created, then we have to compare the value. Why the correlation didn't work and how many identities got created. Here I could see SailPoint is able to scan the track application and 156 accounts were available in that time. These 156 accounts, when SailPoint tried to aggregate, 155 identities got updated because of correlation rule and one new identity got created. That's all about correlation. And this is how we have to onboard JDBC. Rakesh, then this defeats the purpose of authoritative application, right? We cannot expect 100% success rate when it comes to target application, right? No, but then it is creating an identity as if it is an authoritative application, right? Which is not correct. Exactly. Which means identity got created. Now we cannot say, let's say we have a user who is not part of HR application. Maybe we can consider this identity as a system account identity because system account won't be part of HR application, right? That could be possible scenario. Or let's say in HR application, user is having one last name and in track application, it's a recently created upon. And maybe once user joined an organization, his last name got changed. Not user, last name got changed. User last name created, updated in the track application, but is not updated in the same point. Maybe that could be another scenario. Because of that reason, correlation didn't work. Now we have to figure it out whether it's the actual identity or duplicate identity which got created. One more question. Is there any way to skip the identities from creation if the correlation does not match? Yes, we can do that as well. Whenever someone is going to aggregate data, we can define from here. Only create links if it can be correlated to an existing item. You have to check this box. Now one identity got created. We will identify whether it's actual identity or duplicate identity. To find that, click on Identity Correlation. Select Track Application. Here we are having Norman Harvey identity, right? Initially, I am going to search with Norman upon Norman identity. Here I am having Norma Armstrong account, right? When I open this identity, I could see this user is part of admin's application, which means this identity got created from account aggregation, HR application, account aggregation. Now I'm going to open another item. When we open this account, I could see clearly indicates the first name, last name. Nothing is there and the user don't have HR application. There are scenarios. This could be a non-human opponent, which means system upon and your system upon is having track application one of the possible. Or it's not enough. Let's talk about second scenario. The user is part of HR application. This is a code. Norman Harvey upon belongs to this person, this identity. Why the correlation didn't work? Because the track application. Here we are having this Norman Harvey account, right? This Norman Harvey upon, hypothetically, I'm saying for manual correlation of a manual. This upon, this Norman Harvey upon actually belongs to Norman Armstrong. Maybe after, once user joins, his last name got changed. Because of that reason, his email address also got changed, but it won't happen in real time. Last name can be updated, but email ID cannot be updated. Now we have to move this account to this item. What will you do? That's what manual coverage. We know this account belongs to that respective identity. We have to move. You cannot move from here, but we have an option, but it won't work most of the time. What we have to do? We have to manually go. We have to select the account first and we have to select the respective identity. This Norman Harvey upon should belong to this identity Norman Armstrong. Click on Perform Match. What will happen? This account will be moved to the respective item. See, it got moved from here. Just go ahead and refresh. You cannot find any application of one because already it got moved from this duplicate identity to the respective identity. This is how we have to perform manual correlation. Any question? No, Rakesh, I'm good for my end. Hold them. You guys are clear what is correlation, what is manual correlation, how to onboard JDBC application. Now we can consider this identity as orphan because this identity don't have any application, of course. In real time, if you want to clean up this orphan identity, then what will you do? We have a task name called Prune Identity Queue. This task will help you to identify all the orphan identities and it will delete. In SailPoint, totally we have 158 identities. This task has analyzed that. One orphan identity got deleted, 156 identity is protected because actually it's not an orphan identity. Now go ahead and check for this identity. It won't be there. Identity not found, which means it got deleted. This is how we have to identify and delete orphan identities. Any questions? All good, Rakesh. That means before the onboarded application, we should match the properly everything. Exactly. That's why, as an application onboarding engineer, we have to involve. And we have to have a SailPoint application for user information and target application information. Whenever we are going to interact with, we are going to schedule a meeting with application team. We'll ask them about the unique attribute, unique value, right? In that moment itself, we have to start analyzing which value we can consider for correlation. Now we have another application called Prism application. Consider this Prism application. Take this application as an assessment. Try to onboard this application from your end. If you guys want me to go over one more application, I can do it from my end. Let's onboard one more application called Active Directory. I'm launching a D application. Once the application is up, we can start onboarding, build sales. This is one of the Active Directory application. Now we got a requirement to onboard this application. As usual, when we interact with application team, they said the application name is Active Directory. They want to aggregate the data from this user's OU organization unit. OU is an Active Directory team terminology. We need to aggregate user accounts and groups from this particular container. They do require provisioning for this application. And since it's a critical application, it needs to be reviewed once in a quarter. And we can consider the end value as a unique attribute. Let me show you the end value. This is going to be the end value here. Somewhere it will be their option. Once you have all the required information, we can start onboarding this application within. Click on Application Definition. Click on Add New Application. The application name will be Active Directory and they will provide some owner name we have to select. It's not necessary always. They are going to provide owner name. Identity name. It could be a work group also. Work group means it's a group of people. List of members will be part of this work group. Being application owner, they are responsible to review this application access, which means user access, and they are responsible to manage and define this entire policy. Application type is going to be Active Directory because it's a direct application. We have a direct application also. And the description you can copy paste. If in your system, in your environment if they're going to consider it as a trusted source. Then we can select as an authoritative application. We used to consider AD as an authoritative application. Couple of years. I would say 5 to 6 years back, but not knowing because first from HR application data will be passed to AD application. Then it should be. It used to be passed to SailPoint, but now it's not the case anymore. First data will be comes from HR to SailPoint first, then from SailPoint to AD, it will be passed. I'm not going to consider this application as a trusted application. Go to configuration. Here, my question is who will provide these forest configuration, domain configuration, all this information, all this data. AD team, you manage the AD. Yes, exactly. Obviously, we are going to schedule a meeting with the AD team and they are supposed to provide this information. Guys, I may have forgot about this IQ cost service configuration. Just remind me. Then we have to provide, they will provide the forest configuration. You have to type it as it is. Most of the time, they will provide the forest name. Forest is nothing. In this application, we are having one domain called Google Lab. Similarly here, we may have multiple domains over here. These domains will become configured under one forest. And if you want to capture the forest name or forest IP address, just type IP. Currently, you can get it from here. The forest IP address and name, you can get it from here, 637. Since it's our local machine, we can access, we can retrieve all the information, but in real time you cannot access it. Whatever information they are going to provide, just you need to know how to read at the right place. T's. Then the global catalog server. Always you have to type the host name or host address, then port number. The default port number here is going to be 389T2T6. But in real time, the port number will be different. Again, you have to check with application team to get the port number also. And I have already said multiple times, whenever you are going to get the credential, you have to ensure it should be system account. It should not be a user account. And I already have given you the explanation also. Now, here I am going to type the system account name. See, in this AD application, already we are having system account. We are having this account. We are having this guest account. Krabecket something. Let's say I am going to reset the password from here that we can use this account also. And just remind me about the password policy also for this application. I have reset the password for Krabecket. This is going to the account Krabecket. Rakesh in HCRO, we can created this service account for this purpose as well, I think. Correct, we don't have access to create, right? But no, we can get it by the ADT. Yes, exactly. Ultimately, they have to provide. And we can inform them, we can educate them about service. They already know about service account. Just we have to inform them to get the service that they can provide. Then we can check them about the authentication. Is it a simple authentication or SaaS? Once you define everything, click on Add. Try to add the forest name. Once it gets added, whatever domain has been configured under this forest, it will be fetched here. Once you click on the Discover button, Once you click on the Discover button, domain search is in progress. The domain name will be fetched here. When I try to check, it's throwing an error. Error code 49. It clearly indicates it's a credential issue. Hildab error code 49. It's a credential issue. I disabled, I think. Maybe we have to check. Maybe this account would have been disabled. We are not aware. Yes, you are right. The account is disabled. What will you do now? We have to inform application team to enable the sub. Windows cannot enable the object because we cannot enable this account. We can use another account. We can use this administrator account. Straight. Now click on Discover button. Now it's success. Only one domain has been configured under this forest and it's getting up here. This domain should be managed by SailPoint. We can add it here. That's it. I click on Add button. It will be added. Then we have to insert SailPoint from where the data needs to be. We know the data needs to be aggregated from this user's pool, and every container, every organization unit will have a unique value. Unique value. We will call it as a DNAM value distinguished name. DNAM value is going to be CN equal user. DC means domain control. DC equal pool. DC equal. We have to type as it is. Click Add. Now we insert our SailPoint. We provided the credential from which domain the data needs to be aggregated and what will be the content from which place the data needs to be aggregated. We have defined everything successfully. And since it's a global application, no need to define this attribute because everything is predefined. Whatever attributes you do require, you can add it using this Add button. If you don't require, then you can delete the existing attribute. That's it. Here you don't have Discover Schema attribute or not. Just click on Preview button. All these account information you can access from here. And additionally, see here, we consider distinguished name as a unique attribute and already it's predefined. Then, once you perform everything, click on the test connection. If the test connection is successful, what does it mean? Any one of you. It is aggregated, which means SailPoint can communicate with the target application. Once you initiate the task to aggregate the data, then SailPoint can aggregate. Here we are predicting some issue, maybe. It's taking time. First of all, let me save this application. Just two things I would like to show. One, once we aggregate the data, I would like to show you the password policy and IQ services. Let it run. Meanwhile, can any one of you share your screen? And along with that, may know who wants to become a developer. Reema, can you share your screen quickly? You guys can import one more configuration file which will provide all the sample rule. If you are a developer, If you know Java already, then you can go through that rule as well. Because we are not going to talk much about the rules, right? First, once you understand all the functionality, you can compare. Now, this is bin directory of the MySQL server bin. We have to launch SailPoint IQ console. Web API's identity AQ Web NA. Then command prompt. Just launch IQ console. Have example rules.xml file. I'm not wrong. You can get all the sample rules. You can refer this. A lot of rules will be there. That's it. These rules are provided by the SailPoint as a template or you have created for this. No. It's a SailPoint given predefined rules for your learning purpose. Most of the people not aware about this sample rules. Let's say if you're a developer, you cannot do anything from the scratch, right? If you have any sample rule, you can refer that. Maybe you can get some syntax from that rule as well, right? Correct. These rules are for the workflow as well. Yes, we have workflow also. We have some sample workflow also. How to see in the web browser in this rule? Let's say today we imported these rules, right? Just go ahead and refresh. All the rules can be appear from the respective place. Let's say we try to onboard HMS application. If I'm not wrong, you can get some sample rule. See example correlation rule. Initially it was not there, but now you have. You can refer this rule. Then one thing is clear. Now my application is up. We'll go ahead and we'll onboard the application. You can stop sharing. Just go ahead and get a test connection. Here it's showing forest name, domain name and user details are mandatory for each and every domain. We need to define the credential for every domain. The username and password you have to type. Add this domain once again. And hit the test connection. If the test connection is successful, which means SailPoint can aggregate you. And we can define the correlation also. If you are not going to define the correlation, then it's going to be a painful process. You have to manually correlate. From application name, I can select distinguished name. It's going to be first name space last name, right? From identity, I can select username something. Last name, name. Click add and save. That's it. We define the correlation. And we can define the password policy also. That's it. Click save. Name means username. Count name is India. Yes, exactly. It's a user. I'll do one thing. If we already have an existing password policy, we can select that. Click on add existing policy. Password must have at least 4 characters, 24 characters something. Rack of default password policy. Something you can define in your local machine but in real time as per requirement. Topic. The next step, we are supposed to aggregate the data. Go to task. click on New Task upon aggregation, or maybe already have existing task, we can use that. AD upon aggregation. From here, I have selected Active Directory application and just execute the task. As of now, we have approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 account exists in the target. And now go ahead and check. See, 7 accounts were available. 4 accounts got updated due to correlation. 3 accounts got 3. 2 got. Now, if you want to identify those 3 accounts, you can select AD application from here, Active Directory application. Then you can define. You can manually correlate. You can perform often identically enough if it. That's it. I would like to show you one more thing about the password policy. Here I'm having actual AD application, right? Active Directory application. Here I'm having one of the accounts called Abdul Nasim. Now your password policy is already been defined. Right. Now if I go ahead and reset the password for Abdul Nasim, I'm trying to reset the password in the target application, not in cell file. I'm going to type admin 12. Click. It's throwing an error. Windows cannot complete the password change for Abdul Nasim because the password doesn't meet the policy requirement. The password policy we defined in the AD application, right? With from cell file, which means the user has to follow this password policy. That means cell file policy will be applied on the AD user because we define password policy on AD application. If you are going to depend on track application, HMS application, then that particular user from the particular application, they have to follow this password policy. AD have their own password policy. That is our right by the cell file policy. I'm right, correct. Now I'm going to reset the password for same user. But this time got changed because I followed all the special character, uppercase, lowercase, minimum character, everything. I'm able to reset the password because I was able to follow the password policy. That's it. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.